Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about moving on. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, hi Frederick, I've worked for 3 years on as a sustaining software developer on a complex software solution built in really old tech. Now I have to switch my job, but I'm not up to date with the latest technologies. What should I do? Well, this is I don't know how many years your total looks like, but if you've been working for 3 years and with fairly old tech, and now you're kind of this shouldn't really matter because it ideally you should it practically is gonna matter. But if you were a junior, if you were a senior, I would give you a answer that might differ slightly, but this root answer is still going to be the same. Because usually the thing is that the more senior you get, if being outdated as a senior is a damn dangerous thing. Usually, if you are not aiming to become a manager, or if you're not aiming to do some type of move from being a software developer, because as a junior, if you're outdated, and I mean if you are in your early 20s and you've spent 3 years with old tech, like there's nothing going to be anything weird with you learning some new tools and then taking the next software developer job. But as a senior software developer who is, if you're like getting closer and closer to retirement age, that might be a trickier thing for you. I mean, if you really wanted to go through with it, it would still be the same process. Now, my biggest tip to you here would be to start being more involved in the community. That is the thing that you should start doing, because is in essence that is the thing that I think that you've been missing out on. And the two hottest tips that I can give you is, first and foremost, subscribe. I mean, you're using, okay, sure, you're using old technology, but I'm assuming that you have some foundation in something that is relevant today, unless I don't know, you've been working in Fortran or something like that. You've been working with something that is very, very niche or specific to whatever you've been doing in your company. I think that there should be a route. I mean, I don't know how many tech talks there are for, say, Java developers, and many of them are something like this: Node.js for Java developers, or React for Java developers. It's like Java developers, and in some cases C# developers as well. It's like they have their own world where anything that is out, like they have people who specifically go and try to teach them to do something new and exciting. I'm not gonna say this or that about it, but many times I get the sensation, and I have met enough Java developers. As an example, I'm just taking Java as an example now, in my own region, because I used to do it. Where I've met people on meetups where I kind of go, I now completely understand why, even though, say, React has been out for so many years, we still have tech talks about the values of React, or why we have tech meetups about learning how to use hooks, even though you could, like, it's such an established thing for you. And you are in a similar sort of situation where you might have been working in a stack or a system where it's been around for so long that you haven't really adopted the new stuff. And so my hottest tip is to start getting involved with the newsletters of the stuff that's going on. In other words, like whatever role you might have, as let's say you're a backend developer or you're a front end developer or whatever, start subscribing to some newsletters so that you can get a stream of information, and then start looking into some job postings. Like, look at what the tools that are in demand, like what are the names. Just start there, figure out what are the names, what are the trend words, and then start reading. Just start educating yourself. There are so many blog articles, so many newsletters, like I can't just go through all of them because there's so much of it. And then just get a healthy stream of content that you can consume, and then make a commitment to start reading a little bit. That's your first bet. Second thing I would really urge you to do is to start going to meetups. Once you have an understanding of, okay, what are the main tools in like in my part of, like in my city or my region or whatever, start going to meetups, because meetups is a very good way for you, because the problem that you have is that you're out of touch with the community. Because if you're in touch with the community, it doesn't really matter all that much if you are working with the latest and the greatest tools, because you will know about them. And that is a big thing. The best thing is, of course, that you have major experience in the thing that is being requested, but the second best thing is that you at least you're aware of it. I mean, I remember a few years ago when my classmates went to a Docker meetup. They had no idea. I mean, we were in school back in those days. We had never worked with Docker. It was this new thing that seemed pretty cool. And today it's like the biggest thing. It's one of the biggest tools on practically every list of, well, I'm not saying must have, but very desirable skills for quite a lot of the most, like the trendiest IT companies. And so this process is endless, and that's why it's so important to you as a professional to actually keep your ear to the ground and just have a flow of information. It's no different from, I don't know, reading the newspaper. It's the same thing. It's just something that you should do, or brushing your teeth. It's a health thing. It's a healthy thing for you to do, and start in that area, because that's I would say is like the thing that you have neglected, and that is the first most major important thing that you can do. The second thing is, of course, all right, how do you now, if you're gonna start switching jobs, how do you bridge the fact that you don't know this stuff? This is where it gets a little bit complicated. I would highly suggest that you take a boot camp or some short-term education that can help you get things kind of started, or you can do your own learning. Of course, you can make your own side project and stuff like that, depending on what your preference is. It's important that you get familiar. The thing that you have here, which is kind of nice, is that you have prior work experience, which means that you come pre-selected in an interviewing situation. As long as you know that you kind of know how the tools work that are relevant, you don't have to do the same song and dance as the juniors, because the juniors, like, they have to basically completely from scratch prove that they are worth listening to, or they're worth even taking into the interviewing process. But you have prior work experience, and as long as you know the core skills of programming, you can code and all that stuff, then it's usually easier for you to just learn these extra things that you have been neglecting, like, I don't know, learning Kubernetes or Docker. It could be anything, right? Or React or Angular or so forth, and just adopting that and learning the basics. Even just doing that is in many cases going to be enough for you to actually be applicable for a position, unless they're looking for a master of that specific tool. Well, then it might not be you that they're going to look for. But in many cases, most of the companies are just looking for someone who they trust has the experience to deliver good results and knows the tool well enough to be productive in it. And that bar is fairly low in comparison to what you might think it is. In many people's heads, the bar is like super high, that you have to be a master of everything, and that's just not the case. So what I want you to take away from this is that if you find yourself to be outdated and it's time to switch jobs or something like that, and you don't know about the latest technology, I think that is a warning flag, something that you should take seriously. And the thing that most likely has been happening is that you haven't been paying attention to what's going on in IT. That doesn't mean that you have to be a master of everything. It doesn't mean that you have to continuously educate yourself and so forth. It just means that you have been reading the newspapers or the newsletters. Subscribe to newsletters, read articles, inform yourself about what's going on, and I promise you, before you know it, you're gonna have read so much stuff that it's just you honestly, at this point, guys, I scroll maybe 100 articles to find one that is not a complete repeat of something that has already been posted in the other 100 things that was going on. Guys, IT moves, yes, but there's a lot more noise than there is completely new innovation that is really valuable to you as a software developer once you get to a certain point. In the beginning, everything is big and everything is new because you're learning, but at some point you're going to start realizing that, yeah, I kind of already have a good understanding of this stuff. I don't have to read yet another article about it. Get there first, and then if you're really out of touch, go into some meetups, start talking to some people, and go into the job postings, look at what the tools that are relevant, what's going on, have conversations with people, have a dialogue. And then once that's done, identify the things that you are lacking that most new employers are going to look for, and take a boot camp, do some self-education, and start in that area. You're lucky in a sense because you are outdated, but you have experience, and that is usually an easier thing to fix if as long as it doesn't progress too far than it is to start from absolute scratch in some cases. So take that with you. You're simply in a situation where if you're a good programmer and yes, you've been working with outdated tech, your problem isn't that you don't know how to code. Your problem is that you're lacking a few things. And add those few things and things are going to turn out fine. Have a great day.